What's going on, y'all? I want to give you my review of the HEDD Type 07 Mach 2s. And before we get started, I want to give a shout out to Front End Audio for making this review possible. So if you follow my channel, you know that I've been looking for some new studio monitors, and these HEDD Type 07s were high on my list. They have a frequency response of 38 Hz to 40K, integrated DSP, and the most unique thing about them is that you can switch them between a ported to a sealed configuration, making them some of the most innovative monitors that I've seen available. Let's take a look at the controls and then I'll get into my opinion on how these sound. So let's start with the front. We've got a 7-inch woofer and 3 LEDs on the front that indicate the status of the Type 07s. The first light is red, that lets you know you're driving it too hard. The middle light is green, that lets you know that they're on. And the third light is white, that lets you know that the monitors are in standby. And these use tweeters that HEDD is calling AMT for Air Motion Transformer. Taking a look at the back, I really like these knobs. They're all detinted, which makes for easy matching for both monitors. And we've got 3 rows here. So the first row has your volume, linear phase, and COP. Linear phase is the DSP. You can turn that off, which is, I think this is the first pair of monitors I've seen where you can actually turn off the DSP. These do introduce a 10 millisecond delay using the DSP. That hasn't been a problem for me. I was kind of worried about that in trying these out. Was I going to hear this delay from the DSP? But that hasn't been a problem. But the manual does state if you are doing something like, you know, maybe recording guitar directly and monitoring, then you may want to turn the DSP off so you get that just real-time feedback of your sound. COP, this stands for closed or ported. We'll get more into that later. Second row has your shelving filter. So the low shelf starts at 200 Hertz. The high shelf starts at 3K. We've got a 4 dB boost on these. And again, these are all detinted, so you can easily match them. Low frequency range. This is the bass extension, which is going to extend the bass frequencies. It is going to take away some of the maximum output that you can drive these, but a really nice feature to be able to extend the bass here, and you can hear the difference with it. It's one of the features on here that I was really impressed with. And last row here, you can switch between your analog, your left or right if you're using these as digital, and your input sensitivity, and the desk filter, which is going to be like a mid-range notch if you have these close to the wall or sitting on a desk. And below you've got your XLR port, AES in, AES through, which these monitors have digital in, which is pretty rare for monitors in this price range. So these are the plugs that allow you to switch between closed and ported. So if you have the plugs out, you would set it to ported, and if you have them in, you would set it to closed. And this device here allows you to insert or remove them, and I'll show you a video of me inserting them and removing them in just a second. But you certainly don't want to lose this, and you know, if you get a pair of them, then you have 2 of them. But on the flip side, as you can see here, they're black just like the front side, and I would have made them with an X or even a different color just to let people know that they're putting them in the wrong way. Because if you put them in the wrong way, it's going to be tough to get them out without using this device if you put them in deep enough. Here's a quick video of me inserting and removing the plugs, and as you can see, they're very easy to do. So let's talk about how these sound, and I'll be comparing these to my PreSonus Scepter S6s, which have been the monitors that I've been mixing on for the past 6 years. So on the low end, I prefer the heads. They have incredible detail, and the bass extension, which just extends the bass lower, and you're going to lose some overall output volume with that, but that bass extension just allowed me to hear things that I haven't heard in songs before. For example, Demi Lovato's Sorry Not Sorry, the bass drop during the hook. Without the bass extension, you just hear the bass drop, but with the bass extension on, I can hear the bass drop and then resonate at the bottom of that drop. So, huge fan of this bass extension feature on here. As far as the mid-range, I prefer the PreSonuses. The mid-range just wasn't clear on these monitors to me, and the high end wasn't. So these say that they go up to 40K, and I know we can't hear up to 40K, and I could probably hear up to like 16K, but just the high end versus the head and the PreSonus just seemed more open to me, and it was to the fact that I had to turn up the high shelf on the heads, which I've never had to use EQ settings on the back of monitors before, but I turned up the high shelf to 3 or 4 dB to get them to sound somewhat similar to the S6s. So I don't know, it just seems like the head is just missing a lot of high end and openness to me, which is just a preference thing for me. So that's my thoughts on the sound there. Overall, I like the lows, but as far as everything else, mids and the highs, I prefer the PreSonuses. Let's talk about just some overall things about the Type 07s. One of the first things I noticed when I hooked these up and got to using them for a little bit, I absolutely hate the eco mode feature where they kind of shut down on their own and power back up once audio starts to play through them. So in the studio I record out of, we have some Focal alphas, and those have the same feature. Those take maybe 3 to 4 seconds to wake up. These take about 10 to 11 seconds to wake up, which can feel like an eternity when you're just sitting there waiting for them to come on. And I mean, when I hit play, I want to hear audio, so there's no way to turn this feature off, so it's definitely a con to me. I do not like that feature at all. Another thing I'll point out is before I received these, I sent an email to customer support. I filled out a form on their website, as well as just emailed them directly and never received a reply, so that was disappointing. As far as the build quality, these look really nice, and I really love the knobs on the back. They're detinted, so very easy to set them the same way on both monitors. And one thing that's I feel is overlooked with these is that they have a digital in, and I have not seen digital in on monitors in this price range. So that's a really cool thing. I didn't get a chance to try it out. I only have one AES cable, and I would need two to use these, obviously. But that's one thing to really point out, is that it does have digital in, meaning that instead of going analog into these, you can go digital in, bypassing your D to A converters on your interface. And the D to A to D converters on these are at 96K 32-bit. As far as the sealed and the ported configuration, I preferred the mid-range on the sealed, and I preferred the low end on the ported. I went with the ported most of the time I was using it, but a really cool option to be able to switch between those two. So that's my review of the HEDD Type 2 07s. I've got a link in the description if you want to check these out from Front End Audio. And any questions, comments, let me know, and I'll catch y'all next time.